It's a real pleasure to be here, and today I'm both honored and grateful to be here with you on your 40th anniversary and celebration, really. It's so good to be back with people. I know that's a common feeling as I've gotten back out with the live events. I want to talk to you today about leading, and specifically leading superheroes. The reason why I call this talk Leading Superheroes is so I can bust a myth right off the bat. And that myth is that Navy SEALs are superheroes. We are not, all right? We are just regular dudes who happen to capitalize on some unique qualities that we have. And then we also capitalize on some secrets about how we actually perform together. And so I want to talk to you about teams, and specifically high-performing teams, and some of the things that we do to create high-performing teams. July 11th, 2005, in Bagram, Afghanistan. Bagram, at that time in the war, was known as one of the most secure areas on the planet. And there, in the middle of that airfield, they had a prison for detainees. At the time, they had in captivity 4 of the highest-ranking Al-Qaeda guys in captivity at that time. And so they had their special little cell off in the corner. In the early morning hours of July 11th, just after midnight, they did their normal head count. The 4 detainees had escaped from the prison. Somehow they'd picked the lock of their cell, they'd changed out of their orange jumpsuits, they'd found their way out of the hangar, through the concrete barriers, through the barbed wire. They basically disappeared. 3 of them left the country altogether, which intelligence later told us. 1 of them stayed in the country and just continued to do his nefarious stuff, brag about his exploits, brag about his escape. It's rumored that all of them got letters from bin Laden himself congratulating them on their escape. Fast forward a year, I'm there with my Navy SEAL troop, and we're doing our normal business of finding bad guys, and we get some intelligence hits that we know where this one guy is in country. And at the time, he was about 50 clicks to our west, the west of our position, which put him into the mountains. We're planning it probably for about an hour and a half, and as we're getting all things congealed and getting ready to look at moving out, the intelligence guy runs in and says, "Hey, the plan's changed, or the situation's changed. The guy's on the move. He's now headed east towards our position." So that changes our dynamics, because now we're looking at what's called a vehicle interdiction. This is where we have new helicopters. We have to interdict a moving vehicle. We shift, we change, we modify, we're doing everything we need to do. Get everything ready, we're running out to the helos to get ready to launch. The intelligence guy stops us. "Hey, situation's changed again." He's now static, he's not moving anymore. So before I tell you how that story ends, the question is, how do you create a team that shifts so dynamically, so rapidly in such an important, critical situation? First secret has to do with performance, okay? This idea of peak performance is fairly common and kind of the buzzword nowadays. We want to be peak this, peak that. We want to peak all the time. Peak performance, all right? I don't like the word because peak, really, all peak is an apex. And from any apex, there's only one place to go, and that's down, all right? And so when we started looking at this in terms of performance, a lot of people would come to me, especially after I got out of the Navy and started talking about high-performing teams, and they would say, "Oh, you Navy SEALs, you're the top peak performers in the world, aren't you?" And I disagreed. I said, "Actually, no, we're optimal performers. Optimal performance is different. Optimal performance is, how can I do the very best in the moment, whatever the best looks like in that moment?" So sometimes the best is peak, and everything's clicking, and it's flow states, and everything's awesome, and everything's working properly. But sometimes our best is we are head down, just going step by step, nugging it out, because that's all we got, and it's dirty, and it's ugly, and it's gritty, and it's hard, and it's painful. That is still optimal performance.